What's up, everybody? Welcome to Are You Down with LPT, the podcast where agents like you share their stories, experiences, and insights to help each other level up and thrive. In every episode, we're diving deep into the real-life challenges, wins, and lessons from the front lines. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just getting started, this is the place to connect, learn, and grow together. So, if you're ready to get down with LPT and take your game to the next level, let's jump in. Welcome to Are You Down with LPT? And I am Kyle Clarkson, and today I'm with Mary Eikenberry and Kelly Musgrove. How are you guys doing?
Doing great.
Yeah, doing great.
Yeah, well,
glad to be here.
Yeah, looking forward to chatting with you guys a little bit. We want to talk about seniors and working with seniors, and we'll get there in a minute. I want to start by you guys just telling us a little bit about your story. So Mary, maybe we can start with you, but just tell us a little bit before real estate. And how many years did you sell real estate?
30.
Yeah, so okay, we're going back a little bit, but before real estate, what were you doing?
My husband and I had a Tupperware franchise
Oh,
in Des Moines.
yeah, so you're doing sales a little bit.
Yeah, we had 200 salespeople, so I was doing a lot of training with
Oh,
them.
wow.
And,
Yeah.
That was another lifetime ago.
Yeah, that's a long time ago. So Kelly, what about you?
I actually had two careers prior to real estate, one being 14 years at Kansas Farm Bureau. So I was in the insurance industry and then moved on to direct sales and was with Premier Designs Jewelry for almost 19 years.
Oh, wow. So Farm Bureau, were you selling insurance or what was your role there?
No, I worked at the corporate office and mainly processing to underwriting to paying claims, all different positions.
The fun stuff.
Yes.
But previous real estate, doing the jewelry thing, that you were in sales.
Yes, that was sales and customer service, working with people, building relationships, and transferred really nicely into the real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. And so how did you get into real estate then, going from there?
I worked with Casey Klegel, another well-known realtor in the Des Moines market, and she and I had spent all those years together in Premier Designs. And when she made the jump to real estate, she invited me to join her. And it took me about 4 years to make the leap, but I did it, and here I am.
Yeah, well, obviously it translates well. You guys are both killing it in real estate. So, Mary, you how did you get into real estate?
Well, we had the franchise for 10 years, and that was just got to be a lot. 7 days a week, 14 hours a day. And we just decided it was time to sell.
Yeah.
So we did. And then it was, okay, what do I really want to do? And I didn't know. But I had a good friend, gone to college with him and his wife, and he was a manager for one of the offices here in Des Moines.
Who was that?
Mark Grossman.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yep. And so I thought, well, Mark would be the logical one to go to.
Yeah.
And so I started with him.
Yeah. So as you look back, and you can go 30 years back, but if you could do something differently, anything you do differently jumping into real estate?
I think I would have been more cognizant of scheduling my own personal time. I mean, as a new agent, obviously you have to put a lot of time into it.
Yeah.
But we had just gotten back from adopting our first daughter from China, like 2 months before. And I tried to spend more time at home, but you just have to make that conscious effort that, where are your priorities and where do you want to spend that time?
Yeah.
So looking back, I would have done a better job of time management on that.
I think we could probably spend an hour talking about time management.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have, if you're successful in this business, time management is something that's difficult because a lot of people work, they don't work normal hours.
And when you're getting started, you have to put the time into it because it's not going to come to you.
Yeah. If you're not willing to work night and weekends, then it's going to be a little bit of an issue. Yeah. But finding that balance, and I don't know that's ever going to be balanced, but finding at least carving out time for family and self, it's important. It is important so we don't burn ourselves out in this business. Yeah. So Kelly, you're not going back quite as far to remember, but if you could do something differently, jumping into real estate, what might that be?
I would have jumped in 4 years earlier.
Yeah, wouldn't have waited so long.
When Casey first extended the invite, I wished I would have looked into it seriously at that point in time instead of just thinking I wasn't really ready to leave my previous job, at that time. And so that's my only regret.
What year did you get in?
January of 18.
Okay, so right before the real fun began there at COVID and all that stuff. So you experienced a little bit. I mean, that's kind of the market we're in now, and 18, 19 is kind of what we got right now.
Yeah,
Inventory
I would say
action,
my introductory into real estate was more what we're doing now. And I had about 2 years of, good training and learning before the craziness hit.
Yeah, prepared you. So you guys then connected, and Mary, maybe you can start with this, but how did you begin to work with seniors? Obviously everybody in real estate who's selling amount of houses is working with seniors, but you became very focused on, seniors in the real estate. How did that happen?
I think for most of us that are doing this, there's a personal connection.
Mm-hmm.
And for mine, it was my dad. He became very ill, went into kidney failure over a weekend. And it just kind of threw my folks' life into utter chaos. And they were 2.5 hours away. And when I would go up, I could see how they were struggling, just finding resources. And it wasn't the real estate. They could stay in their home. They had a ranch, so they could stay there. But it was, just the support, meals, transportation, all that kind of stuff. And I remember driving back to Des Moines one day, and it just hit me. I thought, I can't be the only baby boomer child that is dealing with aging parents. And what can we do to help them? And I just came back and wanted to really focus my business on finding resources for my clients that were in those types of situations. And about that time, the SRES came out, so I took that course.
What does that stand for?
Senior Real Estate Specialist. That's with the National Association of Realtors. Mm-hmm. And it was a good course. Gave us some good information, but it really didn't tell me how to build my business.
Yeah.
And another realtor in my office took it at the same time, and we're sitting there going, what do we do? And so we didn't have any money to market. And we ended up doing a class at the Des Moines Community Ed. It was a 4-hour course, two different nights. And that was back in 2008, I think. And we had over 40 people show up, which was huge. And that kind of told us right off the bat that this was a need that needed to be filled.
Yeah. Yeah, it started with the personal experience, right?
It started with the personal experience, and then just expanded it. And most of the people that are doing this, realtors that are doing this, there is a personal...
Yeah. And maybe you guys know this more than I, but like when you started working with seniors, there was nobody that stood out to me, at least, like, well, that person specializes with seniors, and never really stood out to me, and I think like a lot of agents, myself included, we just kind of stumbled through and, okay, what do we need and what do they need? And I don't really know what I'm doing, but we'll figure it out. And, so it's amazing to have, you come along, specialize in it, and, pull Kelly into that. And, how did that whole transition work to Mary bringing you in?
Well, initially, Mary and I built a relationship in the office, just working together. And it kind of just started with when Mary was taking a vacation, she would ask me to fill in for her. So I got my feet wet a little bit that way, as far as, maybe going and getting a wet signature from one of her senior clients that couldn't do dot loop. And so I did that. And then she invited me to lunch one day, and she said, I have something I want to talk to you about. And I'm like, oh no, am I in trouble? And so she approached me about getting my certification as a certified senior housing professional and what that would entail. And, so I said, well, let me take some time to think about it, because primarily at that time, my business was working with first-time home buyers. And I really enjoyed that. That was fun and exciting. And
you were doing a lot on Zillow at that time, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. A lot of my leads were coming from Zillow, and had maybe just started getting some repeat people. And then, of course, just from my own personal SOI. So my business was definitely going very strong at that point. And so I went home, thought about it, and probably took a week or so to kind of, think about yes or no. And as Mary said, I had a personal story with my mom, had cancer for 12 years. And then when she passed, her house, cleaning it out, putting it on the market, 4 hours away in Marysville, Kansas, fell on my shoulders. And so I really had the feeling of, I'd like to be an advocate for seniors too. I'd like to help them and their adult children go through this process. And so got certified and been going strong ever since. And I'd say at this point, I'm probably about 50% senior market and still working with, my SOI and first-time home buyers
You're
as
still
well.
doing Zillow at all? Or
just slightly.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. So you had mentioned wet signatures. And so obviously working with seniors is a little bit different than that first-time home buyer. Besides maybe the lack of, but I mean, I just worked with a senior. She had no email. And so, and I was trying to do the deal from California, and we're trying to buy this house. She doesn't have email, and we had to incorporate some other help. So there's definite things that are different. The wet signature part, what other things maybe would be different in working with seniors?
Well, the conversations definitely take longer.
Yeah. Not a quick drop by, get the signature, and I'm gone.
Correct.
Yeah.
They're going to want to visit. They need things explained several times. Not always, but several times. There may be the added element of adult children sitting there, and maybe they're trying to control mom and dad, which is always a challenge because I'm a firm believer that if they are mentally capable, they should be making their own decisions. Kids can support them, but they shouldn't be making the decisions. So the adult children add another element of the transaction that a lot of people aren't accustomed to.
Yep. It's interesting because, I've noticed that, like, it goes from parents, having a lot of say in what we do to now all of a sudden it seems, you start dealing with elderly and seniors and those kids. They do have a lot of say and a lot of impact. And so not sure, how's that conversation go with kind of bringing everybody to the same spot? It's probably not an easy thing to do.
No, I typically would prefer to try and talk with the individual or the couple first before the kids are there. It doesn't always work that way. But that first conversation is more of a consultation than it is anything else. Just say, so mom and dad, what are you interested in doing? What's on your mind? What are your plans? And just kind of let the kids be there to listen, add their input if they want. And I just say, mom and dad, so what do you think about what your kids are saying? I'm not so sure. And I said, well, remember, you're the one that's in control. This is your decision. And I try to make that perfectly clear. One of our favorite statements is, it's not about you, it's about your mom and dad. And that kind of helps put things into perspective for them a little bit more.
I heard you say it earlier, but when talking about, I'm used to, I got my listing presentation. We're going to go through all this. You talked about a consultation. So it's not a presentation. It's more of a consultation. And you're almost, at least the way you guys make it sound, you're almost kind of feeling it out as you go a little bit. I'm sure there's things you always say and always do, but talk about that, the actual just being a consultation as opposed to a presentation.
Yeah, the initial conversation, and I call it a conversation. Yeah. The initial conversation is really just getting to know them, learning where they're at in the moment. We might meet with some clients that they already know where they want to go. They know the senior community they're looking at, or they know they want to downsize from their 2-story home into a townhome. So sometimes we know that's kind of the initial part of the conversation. Then do they need resources for like emptying their house? One of our favorite questions is what is your biggest fear? What is your biggest challenge? And for most people, it's what do they do with the stuff? Most seniors have lived in their homes. My longest time is 56 years. And at that point in time, I'm like, you've lived in your house as long as I've been alive. And that's really putting that into perspective is like, wow. So they've accumulated a lot. And what are they going to do with that? And so, we have resources to help them with that. And, part of the consultation is, do you need to sell before you move? Or can we, get you moved and then list the house? And so it's just kind of just, discussing their needs and what their expectations are and what they're looking for.
So you said this, and I don't want to get off topic a little bit. I'm going to anyway, but you talked about consultation, conversation. How has that kind of bled into the rest of your business? Because I like that.
Because I want that. If I go on listing presentation with anybody of any age, like, how is this just a conversation, us talking about your needs? So it's not me, with this 10-point PowerPoint, this is how it's going to be. Do you think that's kind of bled into the rest of your business, or you treat things differently?
I'm always a 2-point contact when I'm looking at getting a listing, whether it's with the senior market or with just someone from my SOI, where we go out, have the conversation, kind of outline their expectations and their needs, and then we set up another appointment down the road, whether that's in a week. It could even be, especially with a senior client, it might be like, you know what, we wanted to just get with you and talk with you now and kind of see where we're at. And it might be in the spring that I then meet with them to actually present the market analysis and talk more about the real estate side of things.
There is a time when you're going, it starts the consultation, but at some point we got to kind of go through the steps, right?
Yeah. And the step 2 is the market analysis, talking about the listing process and all of that. And that is really dictated by their timeline.
Yeah. Gotcha.
And the other thing that we talk about at that initial meeting is, do you know where you want? Are you planning on moving, planning on staying put? Do you know where you want to go?
Yeah.
Because unless they have a place to go, the rest of the stuff isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
They don't want to put their house on the market and not have some place to go, because it's going to take time to get the house emptied out and everything else. So that's usually our first piece of, if they're looking at doing something within the next 12 months, say, encourage you to go out and take a look at some senior communities. Pick out your top 3 and give that list to your family members. So if something happens and you can't speak for yourself, they know where you want to go.
Yeah.
It helps. Once they know that, and I'd like to ask the question, if it wasn't a case of money or time or all the stuff, how soon did you move?
Yeah.
And a lot of them will say, I'd like to be out of here before Christmas.
Yeah.
And so that at that point, then we can start to lay out the plan. Okay, your step number 1 is finding a place. Once you find that and you get on their list or whatever, then we can start going through the next steps, because there's about 6 or 7 steps of the process.
Take me through those then, because that'd be my next question. You don't have to go in detail, but like maybe what's different from, okay, I got a normal listing presentation to, talking with a senior seller. What are things I want to make sure I'm having in that conversation with a senior seller?
Okay, so once they know where they're going, do they have a time frame that's going to happen? They may be on a waiting list for a community. We've had people on waiting lists for 2 years where all of a sudden
ready
get
to
a
go.
call and a place that they want is available, so it can happen very quickly. Our next step would be to sit down with them and really start dealing with this stuff, because that's the big thing.
That's the big thing. Yeah.
And we have resources that can help with that. And it's they can come in, they're called move managers. And they will come in, and so what apartment you're going to, they'll go in and they'll measure that apartment. They'll come back and they'll measure your furniture and say, okay, this is what you can take. And so we also use the little sticky system. So at that point, it's like, all you need to do, Kyle, at this point is, what do you want to take with you?
And that's the sticky note.
Yep.
Or sticky
Forget about everything else.
Yep.
Oh, what about the stuff in the attic? What about, all you do is mark the stuff that you want to take with you and literally forget the rest. Because we have people that will take care of that after you move.
What do those companies charge to come in and do that? It's based on probably size and all that stuff.
Size of the house, where they're going, the size of the apartment. If it's a smaller apartment, they're not going to be moving as much. But they're also going to have more stuff to get rid of. There's a lot of different factors. Some charge by the hour, some charge by the job. So it varies.
It varies. Yeah. Any other steps that you thinking about seniors making that move that would be added to that?
Well, once the move manager comes in and takes care of their portion of getting them moved, a lot of times the next step is doing a tag sale. And the tag sale person comes in and basically has the rest of the items sold or removed. So at the end of that process, the house is completely clean. Then the next step would be having a professional cleaner come in and do the cleaning, so that way sometimes that's done prior to listing, sometimes it's already listed, but then that cleaning process is done prior to close. And that's
our preference, if the client can afford it, is for them to move first and then to do the tag sale and then list the house. It makes it so much easier on them, especially in Iowa winters, that they don't have to leave the house. They don't have to make sure, they don't have to leave the house. They don't have to keep it up. It just makes it so much easier, and it gives them an opportunity to start to get settled into their new home. And we just encourage them, don't go back except to, unless you've got somebody to check on the thermostat and all that kind of stuff. So they're still getting settled, and we're taking care of things at the house as well as the tag sale person and the move manager. A lot of them don't go back at all.
I think one thing that really has stood out to me that separates seniors from just the general public selling a home is we always say that they're making two moves. There's the physical move and there's the emotional move. And so by letting them get moved into their senior community first, then they have kind of dealt with that emotional part, and they're now enjoying their new home and making friends and getting settled there. And they don't have to deal with the emotional stress of actually seeing their home being emptied out, their personal items being sold off. They've already transitioned into their new home.
And it also eliminates the need for staging.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's talk to our team and our company out there. If they would want to be more educated or learn more about working with seniors, what would you suggest to them?
Well, we're a part of the Senior Real Estate Institute, and it's based out of Oklahoma City. Incredible organization. I mean, it's totally focused on seniors. And we offer classes throughout the year, and there's one coming up here October 1st here at our office, and it's called The 5 Secrets of Better Serving Senior Homeowners. And it's just an introductory class that kind of just covers some of the basics that, even if you didn't want to go further in working with seniors, it's going to give you enough information to go, okay, the next time I need to be aware of this. Boy, I'll do that differently. I think, as I mentioned earlier today, is that the number of calls I get from realtors around the metro of, Mary, we have a closing in 3 weeks, and we have a house full of stuff to get out. Who do you know that can help us? And I'm going,
I think I've made that call to you before.
I'm sorry, at this point, probably nobody, honestly, because they're booked up. So that puts an additional strain, not just on the client, but now you got the realtors trying to figure out if we're going to get this house closed on time. So a lot of those types of things are going to be covered in that introductory class. And then I think it's second week of November, we're going to be doing a 2-day class called Success in Seniors Real Estate, which is a very in-depth class about how to build your personal platform, your public platform, professional platform.
So whether you're continuing on in it or just taking this class, I mean, if you're doing any amount of real estate, you are going to work with seniors.
Absolutely.
And so to be educated in what you're doing, like this class is a perfect example, but you guys would also be great resources, and certainly would probably encourage people to have those conversations. But October 1st would definitely be at that class, right?
9 to noon.
Yeah, 9 to noon. Anything else, in dealing with seniors that would be important for our team to know out there?
I think it's going to give the why to a lot of people. Why am I doing this? I'm just doing sale after sale after sale. But why are you doing that? Obviously we're making a difference in helping people find their home. But I think this just adds a whole another element to it. For me, it gave me my why, and my real estate just exploded.
That's awesome.
And I think it's just those people who have a passion for being an advocate for another person. Seniors really need that. There are a lot of seniors that their children may live in different states, different cities. Some of them don't have, children. And so it's just kind of being that person that takes them through this, because most of our clients too have not sold or bought a home in
Recently,
25, 30, 40, 50 years. And so it really is just kind of hand holding them through the process, and they appreciate that. And like Mary said earlier, I might go over to get one signature on a property inspection addendum, and I'm there for an hour. But I know that going in, because they want to chit chat, and we're kind of just an outlet to, where they don't always have those people to
better
talk
leave
with.
the calendar open.
Yes, leave the calendar open.
And I think as being an advocate and spending as much time as we do with them, there's a level of trust that is developed. And a lot of older adults are so afraid of being scammed, being taken advantage of. I think that's one nice thing as we work through the process. If it takes longer, they certainly see that we have become trustworthy for them. It's huge.
Rightfully so. I mean, there is all kinds of scams out there. I was talking to an agent last week where it was very evident she was talking with a senior that they were being scammed. And, to be an advocate for them, that's a huge responsibility. And so appreciate you guys and what you do, for our company, but for seniors specifically. So I want one last thought. If you could leave a nugget, and this can be senior related, it can be real estate related, but one last nugget that you've learned from 30 years or 6 years in real estate that you would pass on to a new agent or experienced agent, what would that be?
That's a tough one. There's so many. I still go back to the time management, because I think if you get that under control, you're going to be able to enjoy your business. You're going to be able to enjoy your family. I met with a client the other day, and that's a whole nother story. It was unbelievable what I walked into. But they were in crisis for the second time. But she said, I just don't know what to do. And I said, be here now. Wherever you are, be here now. So as a realtor, if you're out doing your real estate, give it 100%. You go home, you set it aside, give your family 100%. Be here now.
Yeah, that's great advice.
And I guess I would just say, do everything with a servant's heart. And we're all about, again, regardless of if our client's a senior client or a first-time home buyer, it's just giving them the service that they expect and deserve. And definitely just working your business with integrity.
Yeah, that's great nuggets to leave us with. I really appreciate you guys. And Kelly, Mary, thank you for the time today.
Sure.
Thanks for having us.
Yep. Thanks, Kyle.
That's a wrap for today's episode of Are You Down with LPT? Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you get some valuable takeaways to apply to your journey. New episodes drop every Friday, so make sure to subscribe so you never miss out. And hey, if you have your own story you'd like to share or questions you'd like to dive into, hit us up. Until next time, stay down with LPT and keep leveling up. Catch you in the next one.